You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
By Saturday night, the high 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 32 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show on this beautiful morning. Thursday, December 12, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfeld, as always, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. We are ready to go. We got a lot of topics to cover for you this morning, football, basketball, and more. And, of course, these coaching changes now are really making a lot of news. We'll dive into all that, and we'll get to your phone calls. But first, let me tell you this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. Alabama Credit Union gives you the advantages of becoming a member instead of just a customer. Boy, it's special. I know. I'm a member. I'd love for you to consider becoming a member, too. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership and join today and feel good about your money. Ample extra change in your pocket. All right, the lineup for today, we are guest-free in hour number one. You know what that means. Phone lines, let's get them going. Guest-free. Ellis Johnson was with us yesterday. He's normally with us on Thursday at 9:30. The coach was with us yesterday. At 10 o'clock, we've got D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons report, and boy, the Falcons are spiraling in the wrong direction, man. As is so often the case with Atlanta Falcons football, they are in a bad place right now. We'll discuss it with Orlando. And then at 10:30, Jeff Spiegel, longtime sports anchor, ABC 3340, host of The Zone, host of the ELG Rap. Going to talk college football and basketball, including Rich Rodriguez and the possibility that he becomes the new head football coach at the University of West Virginia, where he was once the head coach previously. And, of course, is now the head coach at Jacksonville State University. But it's looking like Rich Rod could be on the move. So all that is on the agenda this morning. Of course, the latest with the transfer portal with Alabama football. It looks like Dylan Lonergan, according to reports, the quarterback is going to go into the portal from Alabama to find another school. We'll be discussing that. But right now, we got a phone call already ready to go at 205-342-9904. Again, the number to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. And that's where we find our pal Robert over in Birmingham. Good morning, Robert. Robert, you still with us?
You there, Robert?
Jason, we lose Robert?
I guess we did. Let me get him back on.
Okay.
Give me a second.
All right, Robert, call back if we got you cut off. Maybe he had something else that he had to do. So, all right, well, we'll get back into some of the topics then that are making news. Alabama's schedule release, along with the rest of the SEC yesterday, was put out. And in the SEC, it just flip-flops. You play the same 8 teams that you played this year. The difference is the teams that you played on the road this year, you will play at home, and the teams that you played at home this year, you will play on the road. Plus, Alabama has that opener against Florida State at Doak Campbell in Tallahassee, and they welcome Wisconsin into Bryant-Denny Stadium in that return game from Madison this season. So it is not an easy schedule. When you have 4 non-conference games, and 2 of them are against Power 4 teams in Wisconsin from the Big Ten, and, of course, Florida State from the ACC, that's not an easy schedule by any means. And for Alabama, coming off a season in which it did not make the college football playoff, the 12-team playoff, there's some pressure on Kalen DeBoer in 2025. Let me run through the schedule for you. Alabama will open up August 30th at Florida State. Now, I know you're saying, golly, Florida State was awful. Well, last year they were great. They are, to me, the poster child for the modern game of college football. Indiana, too. You know, Indiana went from bad to good. Florida State went from good to bad. Just because your team is bad or good the previous season doesn't mean that it won't be just the opposite the next season. You know where I'm going with this? This is a new world of college football. It's year to year. And because Florida State was bad this season doesn't mean they're going to be bad next year. They're bringing in Gus Malzahn to be their offensive coordinator. They're opening at home. They're going to work hard in the offseason to establish themselves, and they get a chance to beat Alabama. So that is not an easy opening game at Doak Campbell, August 30th. You return home on September the 6th to play ULM, Louisiana Monroe. And that is a game that, you know, this is a team that had pretty good success this year under Bryant Vincent, their first-year head coach, formerly the offensive coordinator and interim head coach at UAB. Obviously, the Alabama should win that game, but they're not a really bad team at all. Then, November 13th, you host Wisconsin. So, this year, in two of the first three games, you play an ACC team and a Big Ten team. And then you have your bye. Then you get into SEC play, and it's going to be a gauntlet. And once again, Alabama is going to play four teams from the SEC that have byes the week before they play Alabama. Now, Alabama will have byes before two of those games, but they're going to play teams that have four. They'll play four teams that have byes before they play Alabama. You go to Georgia on September 27th. I don't have to tell you how big a game that's going to be for Georgia. Whether they win the national championship this year or not, they're tired of losing to Alabama. I mean, they are sick of it. And they get Alabama in Athens. I mean, this is just, listen, we're not even through 2024 yet. But looking at that game right now, that looks like a doozy for the Tide. I think that's going to be a tough one. Then you host Vanderbilt in a revenge game, payback game, whatever you want to call it, to try to redeem your program for that horrible loss you had in Nashville this season. That'll be on October the 4th. Then you're at Missouri, October 11th. Will not be easy. Then you host Tennessee, October 18th. And then you're at South Carolina, October 25th, before you get to your second bye. So that 5-game stretch in 5 weeks, at Georgia, at home against Vanderbilt, at Missouri, at home against Tennessee, and at South Carolina, you're going to know before you get to your bye what type of year this is going to be. You're either going to have a chance for a great year or the season could be shot. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then when you look at, let's see here, you look at that final 4-game stretch after the bye, you host LSU, you host Oklahoma, then you host Eastern Illinois, and then you go to Auburn for the Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare. So at least the week before you play Auburn, you get Eastern Illinois, which should give you a little bit of a break. But that is a very tough schedule, in my opinion. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Jim. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, you know, on the transfer portal, it closes 28th, I think. So
yeah, I think that's about right.
So can players who just sign a letter of intent go into a transfer portal, they have second thought?
It's a great question. You know, I think their first attempt probably would just be to avoid the letter of intent, period. In other words, just try to get it voided. More times than not in the world we live in now, if there's a player that signed with a school and his parents or representatives go to that school and said, hey, we don't want to play for you, they'll probably let you out of your letter of intent, and then you can re-sign with somebody in February without technically having to go into the portal. Now, what we've seen, too, is we've seen players show up in December. We saw this last year, and then go through some bowl practices and then wind up leaving anyway after they've already been on campus. So I think we're pretty much in a world, Jim, where whether the portal's open or not, if you want to get out of a place, you can just about get out of a place.
Yesterday I called you. I think it was yesterday. I was talking about the overtime. Or what would be wrong with ties. I thought about a solution for overtime, which I don't think is bad. Of course, some people may think it's terrible. What is wrong instead of after the fourth quarter, going out there flipping a coin and doing all that stuff and all? They just flip the field, and the game continues with whoever's got the ball, and the next score wins. Because the game doesn't allow you to – there's no guarantee you have the same amount of possessions anyway. I mean, a team can get the opening kickoff, and they get the ball towards the end of the first half and kick a field goal, and then if they get the ball last in the fourth quarter, they come out with one possession more to begin with. So just flip the field. Here's another thing. Now, the score could be tied at the end of the third quarter. But in games like SMU Clemson, there's no doubt SMU would have went for 2 points with 16 seconds left. If they knew kicking the extra point, they'd have to kick off, and then they go into another quarter. And Clemson has all the time in the world to score.
Yeah. Well, my issue with that is that I just think in overtime both teams deserve a chance to touch the ball, unless there's a turnover that, brought back for a touchdown that ends the game. I think that both teams deserve an opportunity to have an offensive possession. You play 4 quarters, and that was the old NFL rule before they tweaked it, and now you have to score a touchdown for the game to end. But in the old NFL rule, if you won the toss and you got the kickoff and you kicked the field goal, the game was over. If the other team even get an opportunity to touch the ball. So I do think that I'm with you based on what you said yesterday and today. I would rather see a formula in place that resembles more of a real game rather than we're going to spot the ball at the 25-yard line for a couple of possessions, and then if it's still tied, we're going to spot it at the 2.5-yard line. But I don't know. As I said, I hate ties too, but sometimes maybe ties are not the worst thing. In other words, what if you just played one more quarter? Let's just say instead of a 15-minute quarter, you play a 10-minute quarter, kind of like you're talking about, and you just play it out. And if the game's still tied after the end of that 10-minute quarter, then it's a tie. Or maybe a 12-minute quarter, or maybe another 15-minute quarter. You just play out another quarter, and if it's both teams score, it's tied. Or if one team scores and one team doesn't, the game is over. I don't know. It's like everything else in the game right now. It's just there's so much to deal with and tweak, but I do think both teams should be able to touch the football unless there's a turnover in the overtime.
Okay, clarify what I'm saying. You wouldn't be a coin toss at the end of the fourth quarter. Whoever had,
I know you said you would just flip the. Yeah. You would just continue the game.
Hey, how about
with the ball
here? There. How about this idea here? There. You go out there, flip a coin. The winner gets to choose to take the ball or not. But the rules is whoever takes the ball, if they don't score on their first, the game's over. The other team wins. So now that makes a critical decision. Like, how much, would you rather would you rather take the ball and have a chance to score? And if you don't, lose? That puts a lot of pressure on, how good you think your offense is or not. Because then it's a coin flip, and so, that's fair, the coin flip like it is. Then the winner gets to, like, say, either they want the ball or they don't. If they want it and don't, if they fumble in the first play or they stopped on downs, they lose the game because they chose to take the ball. It was their choice. Mm-hmm. So they have nobody to blame,
Yeah. Well, you bring up a lot of interesting points, as you always do. I don't sense right now, I think they look at everything the rules officials do. I don't sense right now that there's a major move amongst the movers and shakers to change the overtime rules. But who knows? Because I do believe they look at everything, trying to make the game better. So I'm sure a lot of the things that you have thought about, they have thought about and discussed. But, I don't right now feel like my guess is that the overtime rule for next season is going to be the same as it is this year. But
yeah, well, it might be a complaint with the rules now, and it don't happen often. But I keep going back to Georgia Tech. I just don't think that proved who was better. It's just a rolling dice. You just keep going for 2 points, and one finally makes it, the other one don't.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, but though, think about this, and we've discussed this before. The results matter, all right. But you know what? The way you feel about a game obviously is dependent on who wins and loses. But there's a lot of times when a game is played and it's a great game. It's like the other night with Clemson and SMU. The kid hits a 56-yard field goal. A 56-yard field goal. I mean, give him a ton of credit for that. But did that really prove Clemson was better? I mean, he happened to hit a 56-yard field goal in the last play of the game. If he doesn't make that, maybe it goes into overtime and SMU wins the game. I mean, sometimes, like you said, I'm not sure that night that Georgia and Georgia Tech played that Georgia was better than Georgia Tech. But they did win the game. And there are a lot of times, like in basketball, you have teams go up and down the court all night, and the team that wins the game, you think, well, they're better. But it might be because a kid hit a 40-foot shot at the buzzer, and that was the only thing. Maybe they were down 2, and he hits a 40-foot shot, and they win by 1, and you say, well, they're better. Well, in essence, if he misses that shot, they would have lost the game. And the only thing that was different in the game was that last shot. Sometimes, even when you play, because one team wins, I don't know that I always feel like like we talked about, the best team doesn't always win. So you have that even now in games where I'm not sure the best team won. But you're right. In overtime, when you put the ball at 2.5-yard line and somebody punches one in and somebody doesn't, does that make the team that punched one in better? I don't know. But they win the game. And at the end of the day, you're trying to get the result.
Would the NBA ever change the rule to keep people in the arena in a blowout game and more that the last half minute of the game, half-court shots count 20 points?
I doubt that. I doubt they would ever do that because that would so skewer the game. It might be more exciting, but you'd hate for a team that had a 20-point lead lose it in the final minute because the shot counted 20 points.
But I mean, ain't it all about keeping the viewers watching the game?
Yeah, maybe so, but boy, that was sure. I don't know, Jim. I don't think you'll ever see that. I really don't.
I just throwing that out there. 10, 5, whatever. Let's make it.
Now listen, something like a 5-point shot. Who knows? I mean, but you have to have. You do at some point. You have to reward the team that has built that big lead and not make it where they can lose it in a couple minutes just because you put some crazy rules in there. But who knows? Maybe they'll go to a 4-point shot from 30 feet or out. I mean. Nothing surprises me anymore because, as you said, it is entertainment business, and they are trying to drive ratings and keep viewers engaged. So they've already put in some weird rules. There was one, I can't even remember the sport, and I got to hit the break here in a second. But there was a sport not long ago, maybe it was in Arena League or something, but some sport where if you scored, you could just keep taking the ball. It was one of those deals. Yeah. If you were behind and you scored, you could just keep getting the ball. So until you didn't score. So they, who knows? All right, buddy, I got to break. Good to hear from you. All right, thanks. 9:23 here on the Gary Harris Show. As I said, guest free in this first hour. We ran down the Alabama schedule. What are your thoughts on the Alabama schedule? Let us know. Give us a call on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. Also, when we come back on the other side, or very soon here, we're going to discuss all of these coaching changes. The biggest, of course, is North Carolina hiring Bill Belichick. So they go from 73-year-old Mike Brown to 72-year-old Bill Belichick. You may not ever see that again. Your former coach is 73 and you hire a 72-year-old to coach your team. But this is mega news. I mean, this is just something that nobody probably would have ever dreamed that Bill Belichick would wind up coaching in college football. But he's going to. And we'll discuss that and more. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Thursday morning. Alabama ranks among the bottom 5 states for dental visits. According to the State Dental Association, only 58% of adults visit dentist offices annually. More than 15% of children suffer from tooth decay. The association is joining organizations from other states pressing for more dental visits to be covered by insurance. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special.
Or you can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans.
Schedule an appointment with Doctors Winfield, Tom, and Vincent by calling 205-759-7878 or learn more online at dchsystem.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sunshine in full supply. The high for this afternoon around 52. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 33. Tomorrow a sunny day, the high 55. Saturday increasingly cloudy. We'll have a chance of rain by Saturday night, the high 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 39 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
.927, and we're just going to keep on playing the Christmas music right on through the holidays, man. I'm loving it. Thank you, Chase. All right, let's jump right back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and let's visit with Tom. What's going on, Tom?
Hey, what's up? How are you today?
Good. Doing well. Thanks. You?
I'm good, thanks. Bill Belichick in the college game is going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
And, he has developed a reputation as the general manager of the Patriots for kind of being a cheapskate up there. In other words, he was like taking, draft picks that were way on down the draft board and thinking that he could coach them to a level that would get him to the Super Bowl and mix them in with, some headline players, and but only a few. But it was almost like that he was seeing how cheap he could keep the payroll and still win. And that's the impression I got. What about you? Do you agree with that or something?
Well, he is a very interesting human being, not just as football coach. His mannerisms, the way he engages with people. But I think you're on to something. As a general manager, I do feel like he always felt like the sum of the parts. You didn't have to have a great roster all the way through. You had to have, key positions that were in that. You're right. You could fill that roster around the great players. As a coach, unbelievable. What he did. His last few years as a GM in New England did not go well, and some of the decisions, the personnel decisions that he made, failed. I do think this. I think he has an eye for talent. I think he understands the game. He's much like Saban in that he can look at a football team and he knows something about every aspect of that team, whether it's each position from a coaching standpoint, I think from a personality standpoint, from how to push buttons to, I think he's a brilliant, brilliant man and a brilliant coach. But this is kind of unprecedented to have. We've had guys, I think of Larry Brown in the NBA, from NBA to college to NBA. We've had guys older in life that took jobs in college. Rick Pitino, is coaching now at St. John's and well into his 70s. But we've never seen a guy whose complete body of work at this age is all in pro sports, all in pro football. And to make the switch now after, I know he grew up, his dad was an assistant at Navy. And I think maybe, right out of college, he might have been around a college team or two. But for the most part, 50 years of coaching have been in pro football. And him now to go to college, Tom, you're right. It's one of the most interesting coaching moves we've ever seen. And he's got a 5-year deal. And I would expect him to fulfill his 5 years unless they fire him. I think he has made a commitment. He'll be 77 when his contract's up.
Right.
So I think he'll fulfill his contract. I know a lot of people are saying, well, if he has a great year at North Carolina, will the NFL come calling? Well, he would be coaching the NFL right now if he had an opportunity. He wanted that Atlanta job last year, as you know, and was going to get it. And then the staff got into Arthur Blank's ear because they were worried about their power being taken away. And Rich McKay and some of them talked Arthur Blank out of not hiring Bill Belichick. So he had to sit out this year. And the guy wants to coach football. So if he can't get a job in the NFL, he takes one in college.
Yeah, here's where I want to go, though. Coach Sanderson brought up something interesting. And I don't want the history of this, but just cut and dry, he brought this up that he had found out, and he's got sources. But he took the job, and everything goes well for the first couple of 3 years. Then his son is going to be in line to be the head coach of North Carolina. That was his motivation to begin with. But at the same time, I know that he's a competitor, and he likes to win. I know that for a fact. And that he had some demands that he put on North Carolina that he wanted to have, the NIL, having money, staff requirements that he wanted, and so forth and so on. But at the same time, I think he looks at it as an experiment to some degree to see if his idea that he has right now will work at the collegiate level, and also satisfying these other things that we just mentioned. And I think he's that type of guy, don't you? And I think at New England, going with that lower payroll and a mixture of good players and I forgot how you said it, but it was so accurate. The sum of parts, let's put it that way, like that you said, and making it work as a team to be successful. I think that, he's always got that in the back of his mind. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that you said a lot of good things there that are correct. I think his primary motivation for taking this job was not his son, Steve. I think his primary motivation is him wanting to coach and win and prove that he can do it at the college level. I think he's intrigued by the idea that he can take a pro model, because this is kind of where college football is headed anyway. But I think he feels like he can take a pro model and apply it to college football. They're going to have a coaching staff, and then they're going to have an NIL department, and they're going to have a recruiting department, and they're going to have a lot of different parts. Saban kind of started this in Alabama with all the extra staff and all the analysts, but I think Belichick's going to take it to the next level. And I do think he wants to see for himself what he can do. And North Carolina's a good program. It's not Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State, but you can win at North Carolina. North Carolina football, to me, is very much like Alabama basketball. Alabama's a football school, but you can win in basketball here, and it's always been a good program. Now, Nate Oates is taking it to the next level. North Carolina's a basketball school, but it's got a good football program, and you can win in football there. And I think Belichick feels like he can take it to the next level, get them into the playoff, and have a chance to win a national championship. So I think his number one motivation is he loves coaching football and he loves teaching, and he's doing it for himself. I think all the other things that come with it, like you're pointing out, they're probably considerations. But I think his main motivation is, he was sitting at home doing an appearance every week on the Pat McAfee show and doing some guest analyst work. But the guy wants to coach football. This isn't like Saban, where Saban stepped down on his own. Bill Belichick was not ready to quit, Tom. He was not ready to quit coaching football. And I guarantee you this, he felt like when it ended in New England, I know he felt like he would be coaching in the National Football League this year, and it didn't happen. So he's going to college.
yeah, I think he probably thought. I think you're right. That's a good point. That when he left New England, they would be lined up trying to hire him, and I think that the personality thing may have rubbed some wrong. You know what I mean? And made it difficult to go to another franchise. And two, you know, he had pretty much run the show in New England like he wanted to there for a long while, and others probably said, you know, we're not quite ready for that type of personality in our organization. But I think you're right, and for bringing this up. North Carolina, I know it's a basketball team, but it's a huge brand. And when you got alumni like Michael Jordan, so forth, you know, you can build a lot of positive stuff with that kind of brand, with that kind of name. You get him out there speaking on your behalf, it ain't gonna hurt you.
No, absolutely, it won't hurt. And you're right; it is a great brand, and you know, we agree. I mean, he has, especially with the expanded playoff, he feels like he can win a national championship in North Carolina. I just think, based on what I've watched from Bill Belichick, he's in it to win it, man. I mean, the guy loves coaching, loves teaching, but he is driven to win, and he would not take this job if he didn't believe he can win and compete for a national championship. Now, will he? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. That's what makes this so interesting. It'll play out in front of our eyes, but I guarantee you he'll be prepared. He'll have a great plan, and we'll see what happens. And if it does work, there'll be a lot of college athletics directors who sit around the country saying, why didn't I think of that? You know, why didn't I think of hiring Bill Belichick? So, well, and if it bombs, then North Carolina will have to start over.
That's right, and but you know that's interesting because that's two storms colliding, or two perfect storms. He's on the coach. He can coach. He's intelligent, and North Carolina needs to, you know, get off the pot and do something about their football program. It's languished long enough, and I think that's a perfect storm that created there. Thanks, Gary. Enjoy the conversation, buddy.
Thank you, Tom. Good to hear from you. Good stuff. All right, 9:38. We got to get to the break, and again, guest free in this first hour, and it's been kind of fun. So we can take more phone calls. Also, I'm going to, as I said, discuss these other coaching moves that look like they're about to be made. I mean, it's crazy times now. I mean, people want to win. They're spending money to win, and if they don't have the coach in place that they believe can win, they're going to move. They're going to move along from that coach and try to find another one. You know, that's what these schools do now. Even with the amount of money involved, most of these schools, you don't get the results you want within a couple or 3 years. They're looking to make a move and get another guy. So it's all of this. It's just from NIL to the portal to these coaching salaries to the movement of coaches and players. It's I guess it's interesting, but boy, it's a lot different than what we had just a few years ago. All right, we'll be back with more of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Find Tide on Twitter @Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
All right, 9:42. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 12:30 AM WTVC, your home for Alabama sports. And phone lines are open at 205-342-9904 if you want to give us a call. All right, Bill Belichick to North Carolina. To be the most high-profile coaching move of the football offseason at any level, NFL, college, whatever. But there are other jobs that are open and look as though they're headed toward interesting hires. it appears that Rich Rodriguez is the front runner for the West Virginia job. There have been some reports that there's already an agreement in place, but nothing official. Of course, he had great success at West Virginia in the early 2000s, and he was, as we know, offered the job at Alabama after Mike Shula and turned it down and stayed at West Virginia for a year and then went to Michigan, and it didn't work out well. And has since been the head coach at Arizona. Actually did a year, I think, as the offensive coordinator for Terry Bowden, I think, down at ULM. And then wind up getting the Jacksonville State job and has done an excellent job at JSU. Has done a really first-class job. So it appears West Virginia is interested in bringing Rich Rod back for his second go-around in Morgantown. And then the UNLV job opened up when Barry Odom got hired at Purdue. And Barry Odom's done a nice job at UNLV. You're in Vegas. A lot going on in Vegas, but it's a big sports city. And I think Dan Mullen appears to be in line for that job. I know he wants some guarantees on NIL and wants some guarantees in regard to what resources he's going to have. But that would be a terrific hire for the UNLV Rebels if they were able to sign Dan Mullen to a contract. A proven winner. I still think the job that Dan Mullen did at Mississippi State is one of the best college football coaching jobs that we've seen. People forget he took Mississippi State to number 1 in the country. And had it not been for Alabama, of course, that's the case for a lot of teams in the SEC, but had it not been for Alabama, Dan Mullen would have been in Atlanta playing for an SEC championship, a spot in the college football playoff a couple of times. But he couldn't get past the Crimson Tide when he had really good teams that beat practically everybody else. So I think that would be just a awesome hire for UNLV if they could get Mullen. West Virginia looks like they're going to try to get Rich Rodriguez. And then they'll be surprised if, those jobs that then open up when somebody leaves. Now, in North Carolina's case, you're hiring a guy that's unemployed. And in UNLV's case, you're hiring a guy that's unemployed. So you're not hiring somebody that opens up another job. But you could see, obviously, Jacksonville State has become a really good job. Beautiful community, great campus, commitment to football. So more than likely, you're going to get a head coach from another program that takes that job, then that opens up a job. It's always like dominoes. And don't be shocked if one of these sitting head coaches right now that's in college football doesn't wind up when the season's over getting an offer from an NFL team and going to the NFL. And then that opens up a spot at a school. So it's a coaching carousel, to say the least. All right, 9:47 here on the Gary Harris Show. Chase, I think I owe you one more break, right, before we get to the end of the first hour?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take that break right now. And before we do, I do want to remind you that weather like today is perfect for playing golf. I mean, perfect. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it is gorgeous, and it has warmed up nicely. This is the kind of, believe me, this is the kind of weather that you want to take advantage of. And one great way to take advantage of it is by playing a round of golf. I'm just going to be real honest with you. Round of golf is a way to get out, relax, and enjoy terrific weather like we have today. And Tall Pines Golf Course, as I've talked about many times, is a hidden gem in Tuscaloosa. It's the former Woodland Forest Golf Club, and it is open for public play. Of course, they have memberships available as well. But Tall Pines, get out there. They're open Tuesday through Sunday and play a round of golf. All right, we're going to be back with our final segment of hour number 1. Phone lines are open on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. Let us hear from you. We'll be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of The Game, we're going to talk insider.com. We'll get an update on the transfer portal, who's in, who's out, what's next. Will Alabama be looking to add to their roster? We'll talk about that with him, Bruce Marshall, Brad Powers, all starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hour.
Unique as she is, you'll find it here at Hudson Pool. Visit us and let us help you choose a gift that will be cherished forever. Gifts that truly sparkle come from Hudson Pool Fine Jewelers, downtown Tuscaloosa.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sunshine in full supply. The high for this afternoon around 52. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 33. Tomorrow a sunny day, the high 55. Saturday increasingly cloudy. We'll have a chance of rain by Saturday night, the high 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 39 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:53. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and let's jump back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline and welcome in our good pal, RV. Hey, RV.
Hey, Gary. Good morning, my friend, on this frosty morning. Want to talk a couple things. One is, NIL transfer portal. The other has to do with SEC scheduling. First, NIL transfer portal, which this thing is such a mess. I mean, it's like musical chairs, people running every which way. And then yesterday, I think the news came out about the South Carolina linebacker that wants $1.2 million in NIL money to stay and play at South Carolina. I mean, there's got to be some things that change for sure, because we've lost the integrity of college football the way the whole situation has come down. The other thing that I was thinking about when it comes to transfer portal, there's got to be something said about signing a national letter of intent. That there needs to be some kind of a rule out there that says something like, you sign with us, you have to play for that school for at least 2 years and then get to transfer maybe one time, maybe once. So what do you think about all this? It's just crazy right now.
Yeah, give it to me one more time, RV. I had a hard time hearing you, so run it down one more time.
What I was saying is, I think there needs to be some kind of a rule made that if you sign a national letter of intent, you have to make a commitment to that university. Let's just say for 2 years, you cannot transfer, but you can transfer one time in a 4-year period instead of all this musical chairs that we got going on right now.
Yeah, of course, there ought to be a rule like that, but you're not going to be able to get it. It's not going to stick. I mean, it's not going to. Like I said, the genie's out of the bottle, and you're not going to. It's not going back in. I mean, you're not going to all of a sudden now have these kids have freedom like this and then say they can't do it anymore. It's going to get challenged. If it were to get implemented, it's going to get challenged in court before the ink's even good on it, RV. I just don't see that, this is open enrollment now. This is freedom of choice. If you don't like it at a place, you can go somewhere else. Now, eventually, maybe if they become employees, then there are contracts that have stipulations about when you can leave and can't leave, or how long you're indebted to a place based on the contract that you sign. But as far as a uniform rule, I just don't see that happening anymore.
Well, that may be part of what the change needs to be. It's some kind of a contract like with the NFL. You just can't just pick up and leave after 1 year just because you don't get enough playing time or whatever. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to mention as far as the SEC scheduling is concerned, now that there's not an East and a West, and it's just one big family there, would it be better to schedule these football games to where instead of home and away with the same 4 or 5 teams, that you have like a game, say like the Alabama-Auburn plays every year, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, that kind of thing. But then what you do is you play 4 teams, then the next year you play 4 different teams, and then say year after next, those teams that you played home, you play away. That way you don't have what happened with Texas. Because, see, Texas is going to have the same schedule basically in the conference they had this year, which was a cakewalk. That way you're getting more of a variety out there. You're not playing the same old teams, for 2 years in a row because of the way that the SEC is now structured. What do you think of that?
I think you got good ideas. I do. I think there's so many good ideas that people have, Rob, like yourself, and it makes sense on so many levels. But I just don't know that that's the way they're viewing things now from a common sense approach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, common sense. That's what college football doesn't have.
Yeah, and I think you've got a lot of good common sense approach to everything, RV. But I just don't know that it matters anymore. I just think this is Pandora's box, and we literally changed the rules overnight, and it's I don't want to say out of control, because I do think there's still some semblance of control, but for the most part, it's a free market. Players come and go, and like you and I have discussed here on the program before, and I get to the top of the hour break, but academics don't even seem to be a factor anymore. I mean, you got guys jumping around from school to school, missing time. Is anybody ever academically ineligible anymore? Doesn't seem like they are to me. And that just seems to be something I guess they handle with online classes. Every time there's a question I have about academics, I'm told, well, they take it online. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right, man. Got to go.
Okay, man. Have a good day.
Thanks, RV. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the first hour. Thanks to Alabama Credit Union. We'll start hour number 2 off with D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons Report. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
The Houston Rockets pulled it off.
Podziemski to inbound it. 3.5 to go. Podziemski looks, gives it up to Curry. Podziemski side pocket. It's blocked. Yeah. Blocked. And the Rockets win it. The Rockets are going to Vegas.
You heard it all on the Rockets Radio Network. They defeat the Warriors in the NBA Cup quarterfinals 91-90. Alperen Şengün led the way for Houston with 26 points and 11 rebounds. Now Houston will face OKC in the semifinals. Earlier today, the Hawks punched their ticket to Las Vegas after defeating the Knicks 108-100. Trae Young with his own double-double, 22 points and 11 rebounds. Atlanta will face Milwaukee in the semifinals.
She's bundled her home and auto insurance with Progressive. Swish Ace Savings TKO.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and
The insurance benefits check and see your eligibility for coverage in minutes at trylifemd.com. That's TRYLIFEMD.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. Pardon me, right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. And we're going to kick off this second hour with D. Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the AJC.com, and good friend of the program. Good morning, Orlando. How's it going?
Hey, good morning, guys. It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me today.
Well, good. And if it's going pretty good, it's going a lot better for you than it is for the Falcons themselves, because they're in a free fall. There's no other way around it. They've lost 4 in a row. They've now given up the lead in the NFC South. And you would think on paper that they would have a chance to win Monday night in Las Vegas against the Raiders team that's struggling worse than they are. But I don't know. The way they got it handed to them in Minnesota last Sunday is not a good sign going forward. What's going on with this team?
Yeah, no doubt. Free fall after the 6-3 start. They dropped 4 in a row. Can't seem to put a whole game together. They were in that thing to the late in the third quarter, 21-21. Had the 2-point conversion to tie it up. Then just let them drive down the field too easy. Drop the kickoff return, and next thing you know, they're down 35 to 21. So, got to play a whole complete game, no turnovers, score in the red zone, just basic fundamental stuff that they haven't been able to do here during this losing stretch.
Kirk Cousins, do you think the organization, the coaching staff still has full confidence in him?
Yeah, they are. They're doing an outward, smiley face with it, but they got to be thinking, hey, if this continues, this is not sustainable. They gave him a 4-year contract thinking, hey, at least got to be good for 2 years, maybe 3 at age 35. But, these numbers are signaling that there's a drop-off and that there's something wrong with his game because he hasn't happened before. So outwardly, smiley face, inwardly, they got to start to be questioning, their whole existence and so forth for this season and what they got to do at the quarterback position moving forward.
All right, you got 4 games left. The good news is 3 of those games are against 3 of the worst teams in the league. The Raiders, the Giants, and the Panthers. Only Washington has a winning record out of that group. But you don't want to drop a 5th in a row. How vital is this game Monday night in Las Vegas for the Falcons' playoff chances?
It's absolutely important for them. They got to catch the Bucs. They don't have to pass them. They just got to catch them. The Bucs play the Chargers. So they're going to go into that game knowing that, hey, we need a win to tie them, or we need a win to stay 1 game back. Either way, they got to have a game against the Raiders, who have lost 9 in a row, and possibly on their 3rd quarterback with Desmond Ridder. It's an absolute must-win for the Falcons one way or the other.
You see a team like this that benefits from being in a weak division, gets off to a good start, sweeps the team that's their competition for the division in Tampa Bay, has everything going for them, and then it just comes apart. I mean, I know this is the NFL, and anybody can beat anybody, and it's week to week, but to go on a 4-game losing skid, it just seems, I thought they were a better football team than this year. But it just seems to be, once again, Orlando, and I know you hear it over there in the ATL, just the same old Falcons. It's like the same tired song that's been played over and over. Every year you get the same outcome from this bunch, it appears. Now, they got a chance still to do something about it, but it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction. And I'm just wondering what happened to this team.
Yeah, no question about it. They started out 2-2, then got hot. And so, you saw some of the blemishes. You saw an occasional pick, lack of sacks, the inability to put a whole game together. But you thought, okay, they can get better while they can improve while they're, doing this. And, they got the 6-3, and it's like, hey, they keep improving. Sky's the limit. But they apparently have not keep improving. Denver was a major setback. They didn't show up for that game. Maybe disappointed after the loss to the Saints. And now, coming back from the bye week, they haven't been able to put it back on the track yet. With a tough loss there, even before going up to Minnesota, the Chargers game with 4 interceptions by the quarterback. So now they're in pretty much a free fall. And they didn't get better. They tended to be trending towards the worst side. And over the course of the season, you want to keep getting better. And this team just has not. And for the old folks they're not even that old, but 2015, Dan Quinn's first year in Atlanta, they started out 6-3. They won 5-0 to start the season, and, folks started to talk about the playoffs. And then they dropped 6 in a row, finished 8-8. And this season's feeling a lot like that, except for, you pointed out the 3 worst teams in the league that they got to play. I can't say they're going to beat them, but let's figure that they do. And then you still got to go up to Washington and maybe win a game to get to 10 wins and definitely get in the playoffs.
If the Falcons don't make the playoffs, it's just his first year, but would Raheem Morris's job be in jeopardy?
I don't believe so. Although they did say they want to get to the playoffs, but they'll have to have a plausible reason. Push it off on Kurt, and say, hey, we're building here. Stay with us. You got to sell the long game because the short game didn't work for you. So, and then Dan Quinn in his second year did take him to the Super Bowl. So, Raheem's got that going for him. Implementing his staff, his first-time coordinators, and he's going to have to say, hey, we need, we're building something here. The first steps didn't look great, but, I need time for my people to keep getting better, and we need some time to get some more talent in here and move forward. So that would be his pitch to the owner after a non-playoff season.
Let me ask you this question. You did such a good job of covering the coaching search. It appeared that Arthur Blank wanted to hire Bill Belichick. He was talked out of it by his front office people. Do you think that Blank might be having some buyer's regret going with Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick?
No, because it would have been a whole different scenario with him. He would have blew up the whole operation. They had been on ground zero, starting over with the whole new building. The owner wanted to collaborate and keep moving forward and build with Terry and Raheem. The better question, one of the other questions is, hey, they also interviewed Ben McDonald. Seattle coach is doing a great job up there, with Geno Smith. So, did they get it right? He was one of the 14 people they interviewed. But yeah, Belichick, certainly, he probably wanted one more. He probably wouldn't have been much better than 6 or 7 either with the state of the roster. But he certainly, would have brought you some cachet, and it'd have been a longer build out with Belichick and his front office people that were coming with him.
If the Falcons don't wind up winning the division and getting into the playoffs, would Kirk Cousins be a one and done? Will Michael Penix be the quarterback next year for the Falcons if Atlanta doesn't make it into the playoffs this year?
I think he's got to beat him out next year either way. So if they go in, fine. If they don't, they don't. I mean, they can't have this kind of instability at the quarterback position, especially when you're paying that kind of money. So definitely expect the full-fledged competition next year, whether they pull out of this tailspin or not.
All right. We've watched the Raiders this year and they've been a mess too. And we've seen, because it's Las Vegas and it's an entertainment opportunity, we have seen fan bases go into the Raiders Alive Stadium and take the place over. You know, any chance that the Falcons will have a good, because I worry about the Falcons all of a sudden, because it's Monday night, because it's the Raiders, even though the Raiders aren't very good, not being able to do what most other teams have been able to do, and that's go in there and beat them and have a large number of fans. Do you think the Falcons will travel? Falcons fans will travel at all to Las Vegas for the Monday night game?
Yeah, this game's been circled on the calendar for since the schedule came out, and I know some people might back out, but a lot of people are flying out. They got a big huddle up on Sunday night at the Circa Hotel for the Falcon fans from 7 to 9. That's going to be pretty deep. I don't know if they're not traveling on the level of the Steelers and the Packer fans, but it'll be a nice contingent out there for the game. I don't know if they could take over the stadium, but I do know folks are traveling, and folks were even traveling in Minnesota. I saw a lot of course, they always travel to New Orleans, but yeah, the Falcon fans are had this one marked as, hey, Vegas and football, how can you lose?
Yeah, Vegas football and the holidays, good. Well, I'm glad that the Falcons will have a good contingent of fans. Ultimately, do you think they win this game?
Yeah, I do. The Raiders are just too bad. I've been watching their tape, and they get after that. They don't have a lot of stacks. They got 42, and they got Max Crosby, and Antonio Pierce just caused a blitz on every play, it seems like. So they're going to try to come after Kirk Cousins and try to make him uncomfortable and see if they can get some of those interceptions too. You know, once you start throwing them, everybody thinks like, hey, let me get a couple of those. So the Raiders are going to come after them, and, you know, the defense will have to win the game for them because offensively they're challenged. You know, they just pretty much throw the ball to Brock Bowers and hope he can score.
Is Desmond Ridder going to be the quarterback on Monday night?
Yeah, I do believe so. They're trying to say Aiden O'Connell's knee wasn't as bad as it looked with the air cast and all that. He went through the walkthrough yesterday, but, you know, I think that's just coach's ploy to make Raheem and them prepare for both for the quarterback, which, you know, they got a pretty good book on both of them because Aiden McConnell played for the Falcons staff when he was in the East-West Shrine game. So either way, they got to get ready for both for the quarterback.
All right, I mentioned Bill Belichick. I want to get your opinion on this North Carolina situation. This is highly, highly unusual. I mean, we've seen guys older in life coach. I mean, obviously you had Larry Brown go back and forth from NBA to college. You got Rick Pitino now coaching well into his 70s there at St. John's. But to have a guy who is 72 years old that basically has spent his entire coaching career in the National Football League take a college job. I mean, I get the feeling North Carolina administrators and their board of regents and people that made this hire are either going to look like geniuses or they're going to look like idiots because I think it's either going to work or it's not. What is your reaction to really what's an unbelievable happening? And we know too that Belichick wants to coach. He didn't want to. He thought he'd be coaching this season in the NFL, I think. And this tells you that he must not think he can get an NFL job for him to take a college job. What's your reaction?
Sure, no problem. To me, it's going to probably fail. It reminds me, and I just went over all these coaches, college coaches going to pros and pros going to college. Remind me of the Bud Wilkinson. You know, he built the Oklahoma dynasty. Then they brought him back to coach the Cardinals in St. Louis.
Right.
That just flopped measurably. You do have Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer being successful at both. Latest was Pete Carroll, but, you know, most of them are Saban, Lou Holtz. You know, those are some of the ones that didn't work out. Steve Spurrier, you know, didn't work out so well going back and forth. And then you got Harbaugh. Harbaugh started in college, won at the 49ers, and then, you know, won at Michigan, hook or crook, he got it done. And he's back in the pros. So the games have gotten more similar than different these days. You know, with NIL, that's your salary cap. And then with the transfer portal, that's your free agency period. So I'm thinking he can put in an organization that'll help him navigate the new landscape. But he wasn't that great of a general manager when he was making draft picks up there. So he's going to need somebody to help him pick. He's going to need somebody to help him pick the players. But his coaching ability is unquestioned.
All right, finally, you covered the Birds. I want to ask you about another team of Birds, and that's the Eagles. I guess it's just where we're at in sports now. They've won 9 in a row, and A.J. Brown's complaining about not getting the ball. I know he's a great player, but they brought in Saquon Barkley. I mean, that changed the dynamic of their team. And I think I covered Jalen Hurts in college. I know you've been around him. One thing I'll say about Jalen Hurts, he's got the thickest skin I've ever seen nothing bothers him. And he's all about one thing, and that's winning the game. I do know that about Jalen Hurts. It doesn't mean he's always plays great, but he is about one thing, winning the game. Whatever it takes to win the game, that's what Jalen Hurts is all about. I just thought it was ill-timed for A.J. Brown to come out and complain when you just won the game. It may not have been pretty over the Panthers, but you won the game, and you're complaining about not getting the ball. What is up with that?
That's pretty selfish player, hero ball guy that is not concerned about his team's wins, more concerned about his stats. Yeah, they haven't gotten him the ball deep in the last 4 games, but that's okay. In the playoffs, they're going to need A.J. Brown to win the whole thing. So I need him to be in a better place. I just thought it was real selfish and kind of cowardly to just put out a word passing. Come explain yourself. You got 50 people in the media in Philly that want to talk to you. If you don't think you're getting the ball enough, tell them. Don't hide behind social media. That's what I didn't like about it. I thought it was rather cowardly and selfish of him to throw a dart and then try to play like, I wasn't having any beef with Jalen. I mean, that was going to come out and be shown as
absolutely
for Jalen. Yeah, absolutely. Be a man. Stand up and back your words up. And not try to hide behind social media posts.
I'm with you 100%, and that's really what happened to him in Nashville too with the Titans. Same thing. He great a player as he is. He just complained and caused such a fuss that they moved him. So we'll see what happens with that team. It's an interesting year in the NFL. I'm still hoping the Falcons make the playoffs. It would be nice, but they better win on Monday night. Orlando, catch everybody up on where they can find you and get your coverage.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, Gary. AJC.com is our website, and I'll tweet everything out for you on @TheOrlandoAJC. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. My pleasure. 10:20 here on the Gary Harris Show. And right now at T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery in the University Mall, they got a promotion that you better take advantage of. The suit, shirt, tie, and free alteration for $99. You heard me right. Whether it's for a Christmas party or for an event, $99 gets you looking like $1 million. You get it all. Suit, shirt, and tie. The complete outfit ready to go. $99 at T-Town Menswear, T-Town Gallery, University Mall. And like I said, you get the alteration as well for free. Get by and see Tom and the crew today. And while you're in there looking for your $99 suit, also
sparkly or just plain wacky. Come and enjoy the fun and show off your holiday spirit. For more info, log on to TTownTinsel.com. Oh, don't forget your ugly sweater.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sunshine in full supply. The high for this afternoon around 52. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 33. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 55. Saturday increasingly cloudy. We'll have a chance of rain by Saturday night, the high 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 44 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
10:25. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. This is noteworthy. Alabama has started up bowl practice. They practiced this morning at 8 a.m. and media availability for players was held at 9:40. So, it may not be the college football playoff, but it is another game for Alabama football and the Crimson Tide beginning preparations for that ReliaQuest Bowl game on New Year's Eve against Michigan this morning. Kalen DeBoer and the coordinators, Kane Womack and Nick Sheridan, will meet with the media next Wednesday, December 18th. And then on Thursday, December 19th, we will once again have interviews with the players. So some media opportunity this morning. As I mentioned earlier in the portal, you just have to follow the reports. It's been reported that Dylan Lonergan, who I think is a very talented young quarterback for the Crimson Tide, and was disappointed to see that he reportedly is going to enter the portal. I did just get a note that Parker Brailsford, the center, is going to return to Alabama for another season, which is great news because he had a tremendous year and is certainly, an All-American candidate for next year, I would think, at the center position, if not an All-American this year. I mean, he's had a really good year. But the portal comings and goings, I'm not quite as obsessed with that as a lot of people are, and I do follow it, but I don't spend my time just tracking it constantly because I just accept it as what we've talked about being part of the modern game. And, it just is what it is. Wyatt Fulton has a report on our website at Tide109.com on the return of Parker Brailsford for the 2025 season. So you can go read that. Wyatt Fulton on top of that. And I want to thank one of our listeners, my friend Curtis, for getting me that article so I can read it by Wyatt Fulton, one of our very own, Chase. So Wyatt, again, is not always just on the radio talking. He is writing articles for the website and does a great job overall with our radio station there. So, but this is it's weird because we're so used to Alabama, and it hasn't happened every year. Didn't happen 2 years ago. Didn't happen in 2019. But for the most part, we're used to Alabama being in the playoff. And, there's such an adjustment to, realizing that if Alabama had gotten in that playoff, they were going to be playing a game next weekend. And now you're waiting all the way till New Year's Eve to play in a bowl game. All right, it's 10:29. We'll take a timeout. Before we do, I want to remind you that lunch is right around the corner, and for the best Mexican table fare in Tuscaloosa, Northport, it's Las Carrascos. 3 locations: Tuscaloosa on Skyland Boulevard, Northport, and their newest location, downtown at Temerson Square, which is a great area to eat lunch with outdoor dining available as well. That's Las Carrascos, authentic Mexican.
For 15% off your first purchase, love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code 500 to save 15% today.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:33, and it's Speak time. Jeff Spiegel, longtime sports anchor, ABC 3340, host of the Zone, host of End of Game Wrap, EOG Wrap, and joins us every Thursday to talk a little ball. And we got a lot to cover this morning. Jeff, you ready to go?
Yeah, Gary, how you doing?
Doing great. Alabama's open bowl practice. It's not the practices that they were hoping for. They were hoping to be getting ready for a college football playoff game next weekend, but it didn't happen. Just your reaction to Alabama getting passed over in favor of SMU.
Well, Gary, this is I've had a lot of discussions recently with some Alabama fans and all that, and gosh, I hate to say this, but let's just put it like it is. They didn't deserve to go. I mean, SMU took care of their business in their league, and I know you can talk all day long about how Alabama had a tougher schedule than SMU, and it's the truth. But the fact of the matter is that the two losses that Alabama suffered to Vanderbilt and more so Oklahoma is what cost Alabama, a spot in the playoff, and they have nobody to blame but themselves. SMU took care of their business, and Alabama didn't take care of their business, and that's why Alabama's sitting home and SMU's getting ready to go to Happy Valley.
Fair enough. For Alabama, the bowl game is an opportunity to get a little payback against Michigan from what happened last year in the college football playoff semifinal at the Rose Bowl. Also, it's a chance to win 10 games. Coach DeBoer has already, had a season that Alabama fans hoped he wouldn't have. They hoped he'd be in the playoff. They hoped he'd be in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. Hoped he wouldn't lose 3 games. This is a big game, I think, for him, but for the program too. Would you agree?
Well, I think it is too, and I would think it would be easy for a team to get motivated for a game like this. I mean, it's a great helmet game, as they say. 2 of the winningest programs in the history of college football. And don't forget, it's a revenge game for Kalen DeBoer too, because Michigan beat them in the national championship game a year ago. So, there's revenge, on his mind too. I'm not sure how big of a motivator that is for him and for a coach, but, I'm sure it is to some extent. But, yeah, I think it is a big game. I think 10 wins, would be a big deal. It would be a great way to end the season. And it hasn't been, what Alabama fans expected. They didn't expect to carry the number 1 ranking in the Nashville and then lose to Vanderbilt. They didn't expect to go to Oklahoma and only score 3 points. So, those 2 games just stand out like sore thumbs on Kalen DeBoer's resume. And not that the win over Michigan is going to erase those 2 painful memories, but it certainly would be a great way to end the year.
Some news coming out this morning from Alabama's media availability. Jalen Milroe has spoken and said that he has not made a decision on the NFL draft, but that he will be playing in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Michigan. I'm not surprised. I expected it. I think anybody that's been around Jalen Milroe, I was surprised that there were some people saying that they didn't think he would play in the bowl game. I'm not surprised by this news at all. Are you, Jeff?
I'm not. Look, I love this guy. I think he's a first-class guy. I think he's a great leader for this football team. Did you hear the acceptance speech when he won the Campbell Trophy?
I sure did, my friend. I sure did.
It was wonderful. I love the way he gave his parents, so much credit, for his development as a young man and a student athlete and all of that. And no, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think this guy's a great leader for this team, and it's terrific that he made it clear that he is going to play.
Let's jump around a little bit, and let's get to some of these coaching moves. And the biggest, of course, and I've talked a lot about it this morning, Bill Belichick. And I know I had Orlando Ledbetter on earlier. We talked about guys who had come from college to the NFL and NFL to college, and some guys have gone back and forth in the various degrees of success. But this is unique to me in that this is a career lifer in the National Football League. I mean, you're talking about a 72-year-old man who's coached 50 years in the NFL going to college. This isn't, I coached in college 20 years ago, and, then I jumped to the NFL or Harbaugh, or Pete Carroll, or any like that, like where you had experience in both. I'm intrigued, as we all are. Do you think this is going to work?
I'm intrigued, but I don't see it working. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I think he's got a good plan. And look, he's one of the greatest coaches to ever walk the face of the earth. I totally get that. And you can talk all day long about how Tom Brady won all those Super Bowls and he was more important in that run of Super Bowls than Bill Belichick was. I'm not buying all that. But after coaching grown men for a half a century and then transitioning into, dealing with college kids and NIL and all this stuff. Now he's got a great plan. He's got the 400-page Bible that he put together and that North Carolina had to peruse before they, made the decision to hire him. And he's tailoring this program, just like his buddy Nick did at Alabama. And we'll see how it works. But I don't have total confidence that it's going to work because, look, I mean, he's 72. Nick Saban retired when he was 72. And I don't know. I just don't know. Not that the age thing bothers me all that much, but I just don't know how much energy he's got to see this thing through.
We'll find out. It is amazing to me that North Carolina went from having the oldest coach in college football to still having the oldest coach in college football. They went from 73 to 72. That's remarkable.
It's crazy.
While we're on the topic, let me ask you this. And I don't think he's going to, but, somewhere along the line, somebody's going to kick the tires on Nick Saban. They will. I mean, whether it's an NFL or a college team. Do you think that Nick Saban would ever coach again or consider it?
No way in the world. No way in the world. No. I think he's enjoying life way too much now. I think the college game got way too complicated for him, with the NIL and the portal and, having to do all that. Now, the obvious question is, would he be a DC somewhere? Like, would he be a defensive coordinator for Bill? Would he work for Bill again? I don't think he's ever going to work for anyone. I think if he's going to get back into coaching, it's going to be a situation where, he's in charge. And I don't see him ever doing that. I mean, have you seen the fun he's had the past year?
Yeah, he looks like he's having a time of his life. I agree with you.
No way he'd give all that up.
Yeah, I rode up with him in the elevator before the Iron Bowl. He flew back in from game day, and he just was in the best mood, and just I think I'm with you. All right, give us the update, the latest on Jacksonville State head coach Rich Rodriguez to West Virginia. Is it happening?
It's happening. He's going to be introduced Friday at West Virginia. The Pat McAfee show is heading over there because Pat played for Rich Rod, and so it's going to be a big party over there in Morgantown. And look, I'm happy for him. I really am. I mean, I think he did a great job at Jack State. He guided them into the FBS. He's taken them to 2 bowl games. Won a Conference USA championship. 27-10 in 3 years there. Look, Jack State fans should be happy, for this guy that he's going back. He's going back home, almost heaven, West Virginia, take me home, country roads, all that stuff. And I hope it all works out well for him. Now, college football is a lot different than it was in 2007, when he left West Virginia and went to Michigan. But I really feel like he's got a lot of tread on the tires yet, and I think he's going to do great things up there. West Virginia's been down I didn't realize how down they've been for so long, but they joined the Big 12 in 2012, only had one 10-win season since then, haven't been nationally ranked since 2016. So they've been down for a while, but I think Rich Rod can bring them back.
Maybe JSU and West Virginia can do a coach swap. Maybe Neil Brown, because the Jacksonville State job is a very attractive job now. Maybe he did a great job before he got to West Virginia. Maybe Neil Brown winds up at JSU. I'm being facetious, but that is a good job now at a good program. Any idea on an early list of candidates to replace Rich Rod?
Well, listen, Gary, that's a good point. And while we're doing this, let's give Greg Seitz a lot of credit. You know, the athletic director there at Jack State, and he has done such a wonderful job with that athletic department. But he and Rich Rod, I mean, it was a partnership, you know, to kind of, you know, lead this football program to this level. And he has made it a great job. And the first guy who comes to my mind is, you know, we've discussed on this program before about when Bill Clark is going to.
I knew that's where you were going.
And this looks like tailor made for him.
It sure does, Jeff. It just looks perfect, man.
There, he coached 1 year there before he went to UAB. I texted him last night. Of course, you know, he didn't get back with me, but I'm not the guy he needs to be returning phone calls from. I mean, if Greg Seitz calls him, I think Bill would jump at the chance, you know, to go back there and coach again, because I think it'd be a great situation for him if that's what Bill wants to do.
Yeah, just like you said, it just looks tailor-made, but we will see. It appears Dan Mullen might be leaving the studio and his job at ESPN to go to UNLV. Now, I think Dan Mullen's a quality coach. I said earlier this morning, I think the job he did at Mississippi State is one of the most overlooked, incredible jobs that any coach has done. He had them to number one in the country. And you and I both know if there's no Alabama, and there's no Alabama Nick Saban, they're in Atlanta a couple times and probably in a college football, you know, playoff and playing for, you know, possibly playing for a national championship. And I thought he did a better job at Florida than he gets credit for, to be honest with you. But to UNLV, it sounds strange, but Barry Odom did a nice job there. And I understand he is, you know, demanding a certain amount of NIL. Obviously, you have the entertainment factor. What do you think about that move if it happens?
Well, I mean, he's the answer to a trivia question, right? Wasn't Mississippi State the first number one team in the history of the college football playoff rankings, right?
They sure were.
Yes.
They absolutely were, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the Mountain West Conference has a little bit more, you know, a little bit more sizzle to it than it did this time a year ago. Now that Boise State is a top 4 seed in the college football playoff, and you know UNLV was the runner-up to Boise in the Mountain West Conference championship game. So, I mean, I think it's a great job, great opportunity for him. I think UNLV is probably, you know, one of those hidden gems, you know, out there in the Mountain West. So, yeah, I mean, I wish him a lot of luck. And, you know, that he's still got a lot of good coaching years certainly left in him. He's still hungry, still got the itch. So I hope he could go scratch it and win a lot of games.
One final thought on the coaching carousel. Where does Jimbo Fisher fit in all of this? You know he's going to coach again. He's made it more money than he could ever spend. I thought maybe if the UAB job opened up, he'd be a candidate there. It didn't. Is he a possibility? I'm with you. I think Bill Clark's got to be the first choice, but would he be a possibility at Jacksonville State? And how long, if not, before he's coaching somewhere again?
Wow, that's a really good question. When the West Virginia job came open, Jimbo was the first person I thought of ahead of Rich Rod. You know, but no, I mean, I think there's possibilities out there. Look, I mean, Greg is really good at this. Greg is really good at hiring coaches, and he's taking notes from, you know, some of the best ADs in the business. The Rich Rod thing, you know, was a big splash hire. I mean, you think like outside the box. That was an outside the box hire. This guy was like an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach at Louisiana Monroe, and he had been a head football coach at West Virginia and at Michigan and at Arizona and all that stuff, but no one saw that coming. And then there were some people who were skeptical that would work, like how passionate would Rich be about, you know, working at Jack State, but it turned out to be an incredible thing. And look, it wouldn't surprise me at all, but you know, Greg's got a short list. He had a short list before this all happened because I think he knew that Rich Rod wasn't going to be a long-term coach there at Jack State. So I can't wait to see who he comes up with.
All right, a couple more for you, Jeff. SEC related. We'll stay with football. Is this a fail for Greg Sankey? Forget Alabama not getting in, or maybe it should have been South Carolina, but to have the Big Ten get in 4 teams the SEC to only get 3, which obviously means the Big Ten's got a better chance to win a national championship than the SEC. And then the ACC, which we see as an inferior conference, got 2 in, only 1 less than the SEC. Is this a bad look for the Southeastern Conference that they did not match the Big Ten in this first 12-team college football playoff?
Well, it probably is a bad look, but look, I mean, Greg Sankey can't get out there and coach Alabama before they play Vanderbilt, in Nashville with, 3/4 of the stadium crimson and make sure that, Alabama gets the job done. He can't coach up the team in Norman, Oklahoma and make sure they show up and score more than 3 points, against the Sooners. It's not his fault. I was pretty confident that Alabama was going to get in, even if SMU lost to Clemson. But the closer that game got, and then when they rallied to tie the game, I mean, Johnny Condon and I were watching the game together in the sports office, and we go, that's it. I mean, it's over. Alabama's not getting in. Because I think the committee was, pretty wowed, by that comeback and that performance by the Mustangs. But no, I don't think Greg Sankey has anything to be ashamed of or feels like he did a bad job. The only thing I think Greg Sankey's upset about is Kirby calling him out there during the trophy presentation.
He sure did. He sure did.
But no, I mean, I think Greg can only do so much, right? I mean, he's got coaches who have to do their jobs, and Kalen kind of failed him on those 2 opportunities.
Well, it wasn't just Alabama, though. It was Ole Miss and South Carolina, too. I'm just saying, I think I'm going to disagree with you. I think that, and maybe he doesn't have to be ashamed of, but I guarantee you he's not happy. That's a bad look. If you're kind of partnering up with the Big Ten and they get 4 teams in and you get 3, and one of them's Indiana, I don't care how many wins Indiana's got. Indiana's in the playoffs. I think it's a bad look for the Southeastern Conference, and I think he'll be looking to remedy that going forward. All right, one positive for the SEC certainly is basketball, Jeff. And the AP poll this week is dominated by the SEC. The SEC destroyed the ACC in the challenge, and it's a really strong basketball league. They crowed a few times about how strong they were, and then it didn't kind of pan out during the season. But this year, the SEC looks, at least early on, to be by far the best conference in the country.
Yeah, for the first time in the history of the AP poll, 5 teams from the SEC in the top 10. Well, they got half of the top 10 covered. And here's what we've been kicking around in the sports office. How much is that ticket going to be for the Alabama and Auburn basketball games this year? I mean, it's going to be through the roof.
It'll be a hot ticket. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's going to be interesting to watch. And then, you've got Mississippi State, the 25th ranked team, and, they're killing it. And, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an incredible year for that league. And, maybe that's what Greg Sankey is thinking right now. Thank God for basketball season,
Well, it's off to a great start. Well, Jeff, man, great segment as always. I know we'll be visiting again, but the holiday season's here, bowl season, football playoff. And speaking of basketball, just a quick thought on this game Saturday. Alabama's got against Creighton, a team that beat them last year, and now it's in Tuscaloosa, and Creighton's already knocked off Kansas. So big game for the Tide on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be that place is going to be rocking there too. So just another great non-conference test, for Alabama. Auburn's over in Atlanta playing Ohio State. So, there are a lot of really cool games around the league on Saturday to kind of give us that fix before we jump back into football season the following weekend with the college football playoff.
And, of course, the Zone on Sunday night. Now, I know we have Army-Navy Saturday, but I assume there will not be an EOG wrap on Saturday.
No, there will be an EOG wrap. We're booked through January 18th, Gary. And
oh, really?
We're going to be going all the way through the playoffs. So it'll be kind of a basketball-heavy show in the first block, but we'll talk a lot about the college football playoff. And, yeah, that'll be right after the NBA Cup coverage on ABC 340 Saturday, and then Sunday the Zone at 10:30.
All right, well, EOG Wrap's become one of my favorite shows, so I'll make sure and catch it. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Gary. Have a great day.
All right, 10:53. We'll come back and wrap up this edition of the Gary Harris Show. Stay with us.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of The Game, we're going to talk insider.com. We'll get an update on the transfer portal, who's in, who's out, what's next. Will Alabama be looking to add to their roster? We'll talk about that with him, Bruce Marshall, Brad Powers, all starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
The website, chowscountrybuffet.com. Call 205-810-8888. The all-new Chow's Country Buffet, Skyland Boulevard. Join us for a meal to remember.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sunshine in full supply. The high for this afternoon around 52. Tonight mostly fair with the low at 33. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 55. Saturday increasingly cloudy. We'll have a chance of rain by Saturday night, the high 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 45 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
All right, 10:56. Welcome back in. We're going to squeeze in Cowboy just real quick. You got like 2 minutes, Cowboy.
Hey, Gary, how are you? Hey,
Good.
I think Jimbo Fisher gives Jacksonville State more of a national splash with the hire like Rich Rodriguez did than Bill Clark would. Plus, he could get SEC players that somewhat, were second-tier guys that could come in there and flourish and maybe get on to the NFL. I think Jimbo Fisher would be awesome for Jacksonville State. And then you would just keep that resurrecting coaches train going on. But I'll give you a dark horse guy that's won everywhere he's been and would be a good guy. It's Kerwin Bell.
I hadn't thought about Kerwin Bell at all, former Florida quarterback. Where's he coaching at right now?
He's at Western Carolina, and he's won at Jacksonville. He won AA championship at Valdosta State. He's won everywhere he's been. He would be a good one. But
yeah, maybe so. Thinking outside the box. Yeah, I think that obviously Jimbo Fisher would be high profile. I don't know that I agree with you that he'd be a better fit for Jacksonville State. I think Bill Clark might do a better job. But either one of those guys, I think, would have a lot of pizzazz for Jacksonville State. Yeah. But obviously Fisher of the with his national profile would be big in that regard. But you'd also wonder about, would he be committed to staying there? A guy like Bill Clark might take that job and, coach there 10, 15 years. So we'll see what happens. It's interesting. It's a good job. No doubt about that, Cowboy.
Oh, yeah. A friend of mine in Birmingham, we were always excited texting back and forth to each other. That midweek cocky game, as we called it. Rich Rod on those Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights during the CUSA games this fall. It's kind of fun. It's kind of something to be excited about. I'm happy for them. I hope they keep it going. They got a good athletic director, so.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. All right, Cowboy, got to close it out, man. Thank you.
All right, be good, bud. Appreciate
you. 10:58. That's going to wrap it up for the Gary Harris Show. We'll be back tomorrow with the TGIF edition at 9 a.m. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. Have a great day on this Thursday. It's beautiful outside. Enjoy.
Thank you for listening to the